What's up guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be working on the square body again. I did have 2 videos filmed for you, but the SD card decided to give up the ghost, so I lost all that. So I'll just recap and kind of bring you up to speed with where we're at. So first off, I got all the power brakes tied in to the booster. I found a vacuum fitting that goes right in the back of the intake back here. Snaps right in. And then found this hose at the parts store. Found this adapter on Amazon for the brake booster to tie the brakes all in. I do still need to get some vacuum line to go from here, and I will plug it in to this port here. There's a little tab right there you can break off, plug it in there. So I'm gonna try and get some of that today. I got all the power steering lines plugged back in. I did use just a factory power steering line off of this square body. I got a new one because the other one was pretty crusty, but it threaded right into the back of that power steering pump. When I was researching, they said he needed a special fitting for that because it's an O-ring fitting and not a flared fitting. Mine was already an O-ring fitting, so I just threaded that right in and tied that right into the gearbox. And then I used the return line off the square body as well. This is the line off the Escalade that went from the return on the brake booster up to the hydraulic stuff that was up there for the brakes. So I just reused that, trimmed it down a little bit, and got it tied in. So that's what I used for the power steering. As you saw in the last video, harness is all reworked, thrown on there. The only thing I need to do is tie it to the bell housing across the back so nothing's getting hot, nothing's melting. Keep it all secured. Then I need to plug in those O2 sensors into those headers we put on. I also replaced cab mounts with these polyurethane ones. That was kind of a chore. If you guys have ever looked into that, those are usually pretty rusted out. The nuts that those bolts run into are a square nut that is just held in place by some sheet metal up in there. All of them came out except for this back one. This one that's right here, there's a square nut up in this channel that's held in by some sheet metal inside of there, and this one was spinning. Couldn't get it out. I tried putting a C-clamp on here to kind of compress this channel. That wasn't working. I tried to jam some rod up in there, both sides, in these little holes that are up in here to try and get it to bite, and that wasn't working. So eventually what I had to do was cut a hole right here in the cab. Cut a hole right here, fold that up, then I could grab a hold of that nut, get the bolt out. I cleaned it all out. Then I had a little U-shaped piece of metal from an exhaust hanger or something that fit perfect there. I jammed that down in there. It held the nut solid, and then I welded it across the back so it's permanently in there, taking up that void between the side of the nut and the side of that channel under there. And then I just folded this down, welded it back, cleaned it up, so I will need to paint this in here when I do the floors. I got all that stuff done. And then if you saw my last video, I still need to put that passenger tank in, but I've kind of been waiting, kind of been holding off. And I think that's the project I'm gonna tackle today. The reason I've been holding off on it is because I gotta replace cab corner and rocker on this side. They're toast. And I've kind of been dragging my feet on it. I've never gotten into any body work like this before, especially welding in new panels and things. But I wanted to leave that tank off so I'd have access under there. And I think I mentioned the other video, I might need to pull that other tank off too, because I've got to do that side as well. But this side is a real hang up for me because I need to get that tank in, and I didn't want to put the front fender and the front fender well on to get the computer mounted and the fuse box and all this stuff that goes on this side, because I might need access down underneath under here. So this has been hanging me up. So I think I'm gonna dive into this, try and get this side all done. That way I can get this tank in, finalize the fuel system. I can get this front fender on, get the inner fender well in, mount the computer, mount the fuse box, all that stuff. Also, the harness that I bought for the dual fuel tank system is supposed to be showing up today. Finally, it's been over a month since I ordered it. Finally got a hold of the guy. The communication was subpar at best. It was horrible. But he finally got back to me and shipped out the harness. So it should be here today. So hopefully we'll just see where we get to today. But let's get going. here's where I got to. I got that door taken off, got the wiring pulled out. This side had little rivets holding that wiring loom to the cab. The other side had some bolts, so obviously someone's been in that other side. But I got all these spot welds drilled out underneath, got them ready to go. Masked off a line and cut this cab corner off. Behind it doesn't look too bad. I'll clean that up a bit, but that doesn't look too bad, too rusty. There's still some decent metal to attach to. And then for the rocker, this part is bad. Obviously the whole underside is bad, but reaching up in here, this sill plate doesn't feel like it's rusted at all on the underside of that. The rust kind of starts right here in this lower lip. I don't really like cutting out good metal. Obviously the factory stuff is going to be better than the replacement panel, but I also don't want to make more work for myself. You know, if I just take this and cut kind of down right along the edge and replace the bad stuff, that's a lot of extra welding and prep and grinding and cutting and everything else, versus if I cut straight across, you know, then I've only got, what, 10, 12 inches of welding, maybe. That's probably gonna be the easiest work-wise. It'll be easier to clean this side up, put some body filler there and make that hidden. This will be hidden behind the door. So I think I'm gonna go that route. I think I'm gonna try and just chop it 2 places, pull this whole thing out and replace the whole thing. I think that's gonna be easier work-wise, easier body filler-wise, easier all around pretty much. So I'm gonna take some measurements before I cut this, probably measure this in the front and in the back, make sure I got a mark so I have the new piece lined up exactly where I want it for that door jamb, and then I'll get to cutting. That thing was a fighter. That was a pain in the butt. So I got that thing off. Let me show you how it looks underneath. Here's how that looks. That inner rocker doesn't look too bad. It's got a little rust on it, but not bad at all. That seam sealer is kind of a pain to get through. That thing was glued on there. And then all these spot welds, finding them and getting them cut. There is one little hole right there. And then this mess right here that I'll have to do something about. And I do have a new floor pan for this, so I may cut some of that apart and fill this in right here, but here's the mess that made. So I'm gonna start cleaning this up a bit so I can see a little closer what we're working with and get a game plan together. All right, so here's what I'm finding on this thing. I cleaned it up a bit. It's looking pretty decent, but this front of this floor pan and kind of the inner rocker is pretty rotten. As you can see right here, this line right here is that cab support that's underneath. It's pretty rusted up in there off of that. I cleaned up all the spot welds and everything back here. And then that cab corner, it's not too bad. I think that's good to go. I do have a new floor pan for it. This is a replacement floor pan. As you can see, this little whoop-de-woo right here is this section right here. I could just cut a chunk out of it and replace this, try and pry this apart and pull the spot welds on the back side of that cab support and try and wiggle that right up in there. This lip right here, this lower lip, is the bottom side of that floor pan. Is this piece right here. I'm hoping I can just cut a chunk out of that and replace this, I don't know, back into here somewhere, get fresh metal in there. But I don't want to cut this chunk out, cut that new floor apart, and then end up having something rotten in the middle. So I think what I'm gonna do is cut those spot welds out on that cab support underneath, see if I can pry this apart, whatever spot welds are in there, and cut this chunk out, see where the rust ends, where it starts, all that kind of stuff. Get kind of a game plan together, because I hope I just have to replace a small chunk of this. I don't want to have to replace the whole floor if I don't have to, but I bought one in the event that I have to. And then I'll probably clean up all the junk I got sitting in here, hit this whole thing with a wire wheel, make sure it's all cleaned up, make sure I don't have any other bad spots. If I do, I may be replacing this whole floor pan all in one shot, but I'm hoping I don't have to do that. I'll crawl underneath, show you what that cab support looks like. So here's that cab support. Like I said, it's pretty rusted. That's what we can see from the outside, but underneath it doesn't look too bad. And then on the front side of it, it doesn't look like it's rusted out at all. This is that little lip I was pointing out to you. So I'm hoping I can just drill out these few spot welds that are on here, get this whole thing out, and slide that new piece right in, and then re-weld this thing back on there, because I didn't want to have to pull apart all 5 layers of this thing and redo everything. So I'm hoping that's all I'll have to do. Honestly, the floor doesn't look too bad under here. Yeah, there's a little rust on that that little support pad that's underneath, but it's not too bad. There's the front side of it. It doesn't look bad at all. In here doesn't look too bad, so I'm hoping I can just get away with replacing this outer piece, get it put in, get it welded in, and then I can go to fitting that outer rocker and the cab corner. If you guys saw my first video, when I kind of did a walk around of this truck right when I bought it, I said the reason I kind of liked it was because it was pretty straight and there wasn't much rust on it. Well, that's coming back to bite me in the ass. This has got more rust than I thought it did. You know, it's just more work for me. And the best part is we get to do it again on the other side, so that'll be cool. The other side does need a full floor pan, so I've got one of those. I ordered one of these just like this the first time when I ordered this one, but the other side rolls up on that center hump. So I had to get a drop in, so I have that radius to replace it. But I'm gonna get going on this, try and cut this thing apart, dig in a little deeper and see what all we need to do here. So buckle up and let's get going. Well, I fought the hell out of that piece. Finally got it out. I just kind of quartered it out of there. I did have to bend the hell out of everything to try and get it out, so I'll have to bend that back. But it came out, didn't find any more cancer in there. That all looks pretty good. And then that cab support looks pretty good. So I'm gonna roll with that, stick with what I got. So I'll end up cutting just a chunk out of this, cut it across here and down here. I'll take some measurements, cut that out, get that thing spliced in, weld it in, and then I can start working on the rocker and the cab corner. So first off, I'm gonna get this thing cleaned up, get a nice welding surface, clean it up top and bottom. I may put some weldable primer on there just so stuff doesn't rust underneath. Get things bent back in place, see if I can get that cut out, slide it in there, and finally start making some progress on this. Also, my wiring harness showed up for the dual fuel tanks with an LS swap. So I think I have everything I need to fire this thing up once I get some stuff done. Like I mentioned earlier, I need to get this done so I can install that other tank and also get the front clip on, because I'm gonna be mounting the computer and the fuse box right on that driver's side inner fender. So I need those back on to mount that stuff and wire it all up. So I'm kind of trying to knock this project out of the way, get it done so I can move on with other stuff. I was planning on doing this later on and figured my main goal is to get this thing fired up, but I didn't want to get all that stuff put back on, then have to pull it back apart to do all this. I figured I got to get this done first. So I'm gonna get going on this. It's probably gonna be a late night. Gonna try and get this stuff welded back on, get it fitted up there, and try and complete this project. We'll see how far I get to. But if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do that right now. This project obviously has taken me longer than I thought it would, so you're gonna have more videos. So make sure you're subscribed. But I'm gonna get going on this. All right, so here's where I got to last night. Got that floor all fitted in there, welded in. I did get a little hot in a few spots, burning through, but I'm gonna clean this up a little more. Then I'll probably go on the underside, see if there's any pinholes or anything like that I need to fill. We're all cleaned up. I'm gonna hit this with primer. I got some weldable primer that I'm gonna throw on there just so that if any moisture does get in there, it's not bare metal and gonna rust again. So I'm gonna start fitting up that new rocker, see how that thing fits, get it all cut. And I also need to go underneath and re-weld those spot welds on the cab support. So I'll get under there and do that too. So let's get going. right guys, here's how this fit up is going. I got it kind of clamped in there, got it cut to where it needs to go. It's not looking too bad. I am gonna have to massage it a little bit. You can see this corner not lining up quite right. So I'm gonna have to kind of take my time, tack it in places, and then kind of beat it into place where it goes. But it's fitting good. I did have to, that new patch panel that I put in for the floor, I did have to beat it down a little bit in here to get this thing to roll on top. But I think it's fitting up pretty good. Again, I will have to kind of massage it, stretch it, make it fit how I want it to fit, because these things aren't perfect. So I've got it all cleaned up. I'm gonna pull it off, clean up the body on the truck, make sure I have a nice weld surface, and then drill some holes for the spot welds and get this thing installed. All right guys, it's been a few days, but I'm ready to get back going on this thing. I hung the door back on, got it all fitted, adjusted where it needs to be, and then I pulled my piece back off so I could clean some stuff up and get it ready to rock and roll. I did throw some seam sealer right here on that seam of the piece of the floor that I put in there. So I'm gonna try and do this with the door on so I don't have to readjust it and everything again, because that's kind of a pain to do by yourself. But I'm gonna start right up there in the front, right in here. I'm gonna start tacking this in so that I can bend it back around and get it to fit, kind of work my way back from there. So that's where I'm gonna start. Hopefully I can get this side completely done tonight. That's my goal anyway, is to try and get this done. And one thing I hate is welding thin metal like this. It's not the easiest, it burns through a lot, but I'm gonna get going on that and try and get this thing done tonight. Here's how this thing turned out. Let me show you what it looks like. I got that cab corner all welded in. That rocker's all welded in. Got it all patched in there. Yeah, I think it's looking really good. Hit it with some seam sealer down here where it had it from the factory and back behind here. But I'm gonna wait on that until I get the other side done. That turned out pretty good. I don't know if I told you or not, I put a new spring and new hinge pins on those hinges, and those turned out awesome. Got this door all adjusted, threw a new striker on there. I had to shim it out a little bit. Well, watch how this door closes. That is butter. That closes amazing. I'm happy with how that worked out. That gap doesn't look too bad going down. It is a little bit bigger down here, so there may be a little fine tuning once I get the fender and stuff on. I do need to get the new door seals and everything still. That'll be coming in the future. But with the driver's side done, now I've started working on the passenger side. I got this thing all cut out. I've started kind of mocking this up. Let me pull this out of the way. Show you guys what all I had to cut out on this one. So this actually had holes in the floors. I don't know if you guys saw that, but that rust was pretty prevalent in there. So I cut the majority of that floor pan out. Originally, I just bought these weld-in floor pans like this. And once I got going on it, I realized that the rust rolls up on that transmission hump and it rolled up on the back here a little bit, which this wouldn't cover. So I didn't really want to make some custom stuff. That's kind of not my wheelhouse. Hell, I guess none of this is my wheelhouse. This is the first time I've ever done it, but I did order one of these drop-in pans that I'm going to be using as well. So I'm going to have to kind of combine both of these floor pans to make one, because the drop-in pan rolls up on the sides a bit and goes further towards that transmission hump, obviously. So I'm going to be using part of that over there. But the weld-in floor pan, this one that I've cut up a little bit, has part of this inner rocker structure that comes down this side, which the drop-in doesn't. So my plan with this side is to use this weld-in pan kind of on the outside over here, end it right on this support right here, so I have a good surface to weld to, and that seam is supported, and then use the drop-in pan, cut it up, and kind of cut an L-shape piece that goes right there and takes care of that half of the floor. So I'm hoping this will work out like I'm wanting it to. This is all me just making it up. I haven't researched this. I haven't done anything. This is just my brain saying this is what you should do. I may have to scab in a small piece right here as well and fix that, but everything else is looking decent. I need to get all this stuff cleaned up and primed before I start putting stuff in. So on this side, I'm not gonna do as much talking. I'm just gonna get to work. I'll throw you on time lapse, try and speed it up for you guys. And then when I get done with this, we'll take a look at it and see how this thing turns out. right, guys, let me show you how this thing turned out. I got her all finished up and she turned out pretty good. I got both of these floor pans welded in, got them all seam sealed in there, and then got this outer rocker on, which I think it turned out pretty good. Got the cab corner on, it turned out pretty good. I also seam sealed all along here, down in the bottom of that. And then let me show you the other side real quick. Same thing on this side. I got it all seam sealed, got everything done. The only thing left that I need to do is get some body filler and smooth out the welds right here. And then that go around the back of the cab right here on these cab corners. Get them all smoothed out. I left that door on the other side out just so I can show you guys how it looks. Have a little bit of room so I can show you guys. I do need to get that hung and get it adjusted properly. I did the new hinge pins and striker on that side as well. So I'm gonna get that hung in the next few days, but this turned out awesome. Now, don't let this quick video and time lapse and everything fool you. This is a lot of work. This isn't an easy project, a quick project. It's not a buy the stuff from LMC or whatever online site you wanna buy it from and in an afternoon you're gonna be done with it. This took me quite a few days to get done, but in the end it turned out awesome. If you have the skill and the know-how and common sense, a normal guy can get this done, but don't think it's gonna be a quick project because this is a lot of work. It was fun doing. I did learn quite a bit, and honestly, I think it turned out pretty good. My next steps with this, I do have some rust neutralizer, so I'm gonna hit the whole floor with the rust neutralizer, get rid of all this, and then paint the whole floor with some Pour 15. I'm gonna paint it all black, get it all sealed up, ready to rock and roll for carpet and everything. And it is a huge relief to have this done because now I can throw that other fuel tank in, get my fuel pumps wired up, and let everything start progressing to get this thing running. It's turning out awesome. I'm having a lot of fun doing it. I just wish I had more time so I could do it faster, but I'm slowly but surely coming along with this thing. So guys, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button. I'm gonna keep bringing you more content with this truck. We're gonna get this thing built out, get it going, and hopefully have a solid, reliable driver. So thanks for watching. As always, don't forget to subscribe, hit that thumbs up button, and we'll see you guys next time.